There is an existing Australian standard, and for the most part that Australian standard is relevant, but in a real life situation the most common form of attack is people just kicking in or battering in. And that part of the standard has been derived from a glass impact standard of which is like a 40 kilo weight. Unless you want to make your security screens child-proof only, it's just not good enough. Our view is not sufficient. It should be at least double. It's currently at 100 joules, and as I said, that 100 joule impact is about the equivalent of a 40 kilo kid jumping down a step. It needs to be at least double that. Standards Australia is a for-profit organisation. It's not a government body. So it's a for-profit organisation that facilitates industry groups that want to create a standard for the products that they sell. So basically that Australian standard was introduced to satisfy the product range that was available at the time. But that's last century, you know, this is a new century and nothing much has changed since, and we need to move on. The recent impact testing was conducted by the University of New South Wales at the Australian Defence Force Academy. The reason we chose these people was that they are the premium authority in this country. They test the military equipment and we use that same high-tech machinery, which is just a little bit more high-tech than swinging a lead ball into a screen. This is all pneumatic equipment and properly measured. So we felt that this was the best way to test with the highest integrity that we can possibly apply to these tests. Well, the criteria for the testing was that we would take each screen and we'd test it firstly to the Australian standard, which is 5 impacts at 100 joules. For those who passed that standard, we then put a new screen on or tested it within another 50 joules of each impact until failure. Unfortunately for the 9 screens we tested, 6 of them failed to even pass that Australian standard test of 5 impacts. Most of them failed within 2 to 3 impacts, in fact. We certainly tested everything exactly the same. So all screens were tested exactly the same way, except that some lasted longer than others. When we tested the competitor screens, we actually were a little disappointed in how they performed. We'd done a lot of in-house testing here without the equipment, just with kicking it ourselves, and found that, geez, some of these things are just failing too easily. But when we actually put the competitor screens through this controlled test, it was a real scary result, because these products are being sold out there to mums and dads and families and grandparents, and they weren't even cutting the current Australian standard. Well, out of the 9 screens that we tested, 6 of those screens that are readily available on the market didn't meet the impact level required by the Australian standard. When we tested Crimsafe, our products certainly outperformed everything else there. We started at our weakest section went to 500 joules, our medium section, our heavy duty section went to 750, and of course our full commercial went to 1200 joules. Now that's a huge difference from not even making 100 joules like most of the products. It's funny about, you know, security is one of these products that is very underrated out there. It's just regarded as, well, you know, they're just security screens, they're all the same, they're fly screens, whatever. But these are the products that are at the forefront of protecting our families. Yet there is nobody out there keeping a watch on what's happening with security screens. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're basically going it alone and pushing for a higher standard that I think that the market deserves, the people who buy the products deserve, and our industry deserves. Well, firstly, you need to deal with a reputable Crimsafe licensee, and you only have to look up our website, crimsafe.com.au, and you'll see them listed there, and it's worthwhile checking that. Generally, our standard product, you can see the screw clamp system. The screw clamp is easily targeted as the identity of Crimsafe.